Joining me today is New Hampshire State Senator Dan Feltes. Dan, so let's continue our conversation, the opioid crisis. And really what I was struck by sort of what you're saying was how complex it is. And,
right.
And the challenge is to keep people from going back to using.
Right.
And just the level of complexity.
Well, it's cliche at this point, but there's no magic bullet, and certainly New Hampshire didn't get into this overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. Governor Hassan laid out a comprehensive plan that led to the heroin and opioid public health crisis task force. A lot of people put a lot of work into that. Senator Bradley chaired the task force, did a nice job. A fair amount of the bills have passed. Some still need to pass by the time this airs. Hopefully they have passed, including, as I mentioned, the additional funding for treatment, prevention, and recovery. New Hampshire, based on last year's statistics anyways, was second in the nation, second worst in the nation.
So that's not a good thing.
Behind Texas in providing the funding for treatment, recovery, and prevention. And so we need to step up our efforts, build out our capacity. We've heard story after story after story of people needing to go out of state and they're away from their family to get the needed treatment. And we've heard story after story about the gaps in the recovery system, including the absence of enough supportive housing and affordable supportive housing for folks in recovery. So hopefully that bill will pass. That will make some effort in dealing with that. Other bills that are still being worked on, including funding for the prescription drug monitoring program, so-called PDMP, to help with the best practices of prescribing and dispensing opioids. 80% of folks that have about 80% of folks that are addicted to heroin were previously addicted to something like Vicodin or Percocet. So prescribing practice, prescribing rules, those are going to all be, continue to be worked on.
Is there a database sharing component to that?
Absolutely. Yep, you got it. So it would be a database. So if you're prescribing and dispensing, you could enter, and then let's say I'm prescribing and dispensing, I could also enter and it could come up,
That I'm going to you, I'm going to this person.
Correct.
I'm shopping doctors.
Right. That's one of the goals of it. The other goal of it is a little bit of a sunlight goal to show to some degree, who may be potentially overprescribing, and it's that kind of a mechanism as well. So another key bill that has passed is a bill dealing with streamlining access to treatment in terms of how insurance carriers treat people. The argument previously was, well, you know what? When I raise my hand and I'm ready for treatment, which, by the way, is the critical, cost-effective time to get someone into treatment.
Right. Not before or not after.
Yeah, if they leave.
When they're ready.
When they're ready, or if they've overdosed and they're ready. When they're ready, that's the time. And so one of the arguments has been, well, let's wait until the insurance carriers get around to approving it. Well, this bill that I co-sponsored, Senator Stiles was the prime sponsor, eliminated that. So there's a provisional, authorization for folks to get into treatment and not have to necessarily worry about their insurance carrier, at least, in the immediate near term.
I mean, that seems like that should have had really strong bipartisan support. And
it passed 16-8 in the Senate. All 10 Democrats and 6 Republicans voted for it. 8 Republicans voted against it. But it was an important reform. Look, you don't have to call your insurance carrier
to go to the emergency room.
To go to the emergency room or to authorize CPR. Why should, in the near term, life-saving treatment for someone who's addicted to heroin or fentanyl? Why should the insurance carrier? Why should you have to wait around for the insurance carrier on that? We've heard story after story of a heartbreaking story of people who didn't get the help they needed right away and left, and there were bad consequences. So that's another important bill that we have gotten done. There was significant floor debate on it. Like I said, it was a bipartisan effort in the end. One portion of the Republican Party opposed it. One portion supported it, and all the Democrats supported it.
And we've got to wrap this up now. But we return, we're going to continue our conversation focusing on some other legislation. So please stay with us.